This morning, Fox 45 News is asking what's next after a plan to tackle juvenile crime passes in the State House. A closer look at both versions of this bill, plus the main sticking points that are raising some red flags.
They want the police to do their job, but they handcuff the police so they cannot do their job. And I think they coddle a lot of these criminals, especially these young juvenile criminals.
And as lawmakers in Annapolis debate what's next for juvenile crime, a former lawman says they're still not taking the issue seriously enough. Why he says proposed changes aren't going to curb juvenile crime.
And we are starting off with just a little bit of fog, but I am tracking a really nice end to the weekend. I'll let you know how long it lasts in a couple of minutes.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. Oh, just look at that sunrise. We look live over Towson this morning. It is March 3rd. We are wrapping up your first weekend in March, believe it or not. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's talk about your forecast. Meteorologist Amy Aronson, that orange glow is exactly how I'd love to start a Sunday morning.
Yeah, you can already tell it feels a little warmer out there this morning. That smell of spring is in the air. We do have a little bit of fog, though, in certain locations. So some fog west of here out towards Frederick, down to a half-a-mile visibility there. And then if you are just north and east of Baltimore, out towards Edgewood, Bel Air, along 95 there, visibilities are down close to 1 mile this morning. But that's really the only issue we face. Otherwise, we are looking at a really pretty end to the weekend. Not bad to start off your morning. Upper 30s, low 40s to begin. With the help of that sunshine, these numbers are going to warm up quite a bit today. If you want to get a walk in with the dog, why not throw a jacket on and knock it out this morning? We've got a mix of sun and clouds. Temperatures will be improving with each passing hour. So by the end of the morning, we're already breaking into the low 50s. Now, if you want to hold off, it's going to feel even warmer later on. I'll let you know exactly how high these temperatures are going to get today. And then I am tracking some big changes for the week ahead. I'll break them down in just about 10 minutes, too. Taylor?
There is no amendment to this bill that would satisfy that for me.
This time, we need to take it seriously. We need to make sure and hold accountable our law enforcement officers and make sure that they do what they are supposed to do righteously.
Since the implementation of the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, less than 2 years later, we are willing to roll back all of the advances that we made.
Well, now to your session 2024 coverage. Juvenile proposals to tackle crime are one step closer to becoming law. Maryland's House of Delegates passed Bill 814 on Friday. The Senate is set to vote on a measure tomorrow. Now, after that, lawmakers from both houses will have to negotiate on a final joint version. As it stands, the House version calls for the creation of a commission to gather more data about juvenile crime. It also extends probation, involves state attorneys in the process earlier, and expands the Department of Juvenile Services jurisdiction. It would now open the door for kids who commit certain crimes between the age of 10 and 12 years old to face some consequences. It excludes kids who steal cars for the first time or are found with a gun for the first time.
It would be the opportunity for the child to go through a diversion program. If they came back with another charge for car theft, then they would be subject to juvenile jurisdiction.
The issue here, though, is those diversionary programs aren't in place everywhere just yet, which is raising concerns about the reality of implementing this plan.
Does the bill address any funding for diversion programs?
So we don't usually deal with funding, but that is an issue that certainly is part of the budgetary process.
Well, one state attorney Fox 45 News spoke with earlier this week is raising concerns with the crime house package that DJS just doesn't have the resources necessary to accommodate it.
No one is offended by giving young people treatment, but DJS doesn't have the resources nor the programs, and instead of holding children accountable for, in many instances, increasingly violent crime, we're putting them into a system that cannot deal with the numbers of children that are being forwarded to them for treatment.
The House version isn't the only bill with its share of sticking points. There are three main concerns with both versions of the bill for some delegates. Now, when it comes to the House version, critics say it's too soft on young offenders who steal cars. They argue kids ages 10 to 12 who steal a car should go to DJS right away. As for the Senate version, there are similar concerns over filing what's called a CINS or a SINS petition. For the first time, a child between the age of 10 and 12 steals a car. Both bills call to extend probation for young people in some cases. However, some point to Juvenile Secretary Vincent Giraldi, who has spoken in favor of ending probation altogether. Giraldi has not indicated a change in his position. Fox 45 News reached out to the Secretary's office asking if he supports this legislation. We've yet to hear a direct response back.
The governor has shown us time and time again that he is more committed to maintaining his relationship with Giraldi than rehabilitating young people.
However, the governor's repeatedly said Giraldi's views will not stand in the way of this legislation.
While we might have people within the administration who might impact in other jobs have said X, Y, or Z, we're also very clear that we're one team here, and these are policies that are going to be followed within our administration with me as the team captain.
Well, as the debate over juvenile crime and how to deal with it continues in Annapolis, some lawmakers are pointing the finger at police. A former law enforcement official, though, is pointing the finger right back and calling out lawmakers on the current juvenile crime crisis. Vincent Hill has the story.
As the back and forth continues in Annapolis.
This bill is a pretty fair attempt to do both.
All of our kids are going to be impacted by this, but especially Black and Latino kids.
Here in Baltimore,
a lot of the politicians
All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the events happening in our region today. Starting at 9 a.m. this morning, if you are in Maryland, you're a resident who owns a Kia or a Hyundai with a physical key, drop by any of the Maryland State Police barracks to get one of those free steering wheel locks. All you have to do is bring your license and your registration. Go ahead and check online with the Maryland State Police website to find the location that's nearest you. And lovebirds, wedding season's arrived at 12:30 this afternoon. Go ahead and check out the Wedding Expo at Maryland Live Casino Hotel. And you've got a chance to meet face-to-face with some of the top wedding professionals in the DMV to get your planning season going. And then at 3 o'clock this afternoon, the Baltimore Catholic League Championship basketball game is taking place at Goucher College. Number 4 Spalding will take on number 2 St. Francis. You can still buy tickets online if you have not done so already. With all of these fun things happening today in Baltimore and around our region, we want to know, will the weather hold up? That's a question for meteorologist Amy Aronson. She'll break it down for us in our full Weather Authority forecast. And we're 3 days into National Reading Month. After the break, Fox 45's Project Baltimore team reports the long-term challenges students face if they don't have proper reading skills by the 3rd grade. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
Project Baltimore is sponsored by the Snyder Law Group. Don't just sue them, Snyder them.
We want to make sure that we can get as many of our third graders reading by the end of the year as possible.
We need to make sure that all of those teachers have the skill sets that they need to diagnose those kinds of issues and the skill sets that they need to intervene at a very early age.
March is National Reading Month, and many classrooms across the country will focus on early childhood literacy. As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, students who struggle to read by the third grade could really face some lifelong challenges.
When it comes to children learning how to read, most experts agree the pivotal year is third grade.
So they move from learning how to read to reading to learn other things.
Emily Mitchell is with Sylvan Learning, based in Baltimore County, Maryland.
If students aren't ready to make that jump, they get left behind really quickly.
Mitchell says the importance of children reading at grade level by third grade has been understood for years. Because many students, she says, who fall behind by third grade never catch up.
If they're close to third grade level, they'll be okay, but if they're not, it has honestly lifelong effects.
Maryland's General Assembly in 2011 created a task force to study school dropouts and their impact on the criminal justice system. The report found a connection between third grade reading levels and the adult prison population. The task force found 23% of below basic third grade readers will likely drop out of high school. 23%. For comparison, 9% of children with basic reading skills and 4% of proficient readers will likely drop out of high school. The report then looked at Maryland's prison population and found 57% of inmates under age 25 were high school dropouts.
We want to make sure that we can get as many of our third graders reading by the end of the year as possible.
If that's the goal, the question then becomes, how is it accomplished?
I think you can identify little ones that are struggling very young.
Dr. Carrie Wright is the interim Maryland State Superintendent of Schools. She took over in 2023 with a focus on improving reading proficiencies, something she's done before.
You know, we're living in a new era in public education in Mississippi.
In 2013, Wright was hired as the Mississippi State Superintendent of Education and presided over what's been called the Mississippi Miracle.
It's not a miracle. It's hard work over a long period of time.
The year Wright took over, Mississippi passed a law mandating every third grade student must read at grade level before moving to fourth grade. These laws are often called third grade reading retention policies. They say if a student cannot read at grade level, they either repeat third grade or receive interventions to catch up.
For me, it's prevention and intervention.
According to federal test scores in 2013, the year the law passed, Mississippi students scored on average a 209 in fourth grade reading, far below the national average of 221. But by 2022, the most recent year for results, Mississippi had passed the national average. Mississippi now scores a 217 in fourth grade reading. The national average sits at 216.
We need to make sure that all of those teachers have the skill sets that they need to diagnose those kinds of issues and the skill sets that they need to intervene at a very early age.
According to Education Week, 25 states and the District of Columbia either allow or require districts to hold back students who are not reading proficiently by the end of third grade.
The answer is a balanced approach. If a school really doesn't think a child is ready for fourth grade, then it's not a terrible thing to hold them back, but they do need extra support when they go through third grade again to make sure that they'll be successful the second time through.
I'm Chris Papst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Well, in honor of National Reading Month, our parent company, Sinclair Broadcast Group, is partnering with Reading Fundamental. They're launching Sinclair Cares, supporting children's literacy. The campaign will run throughout the month of March for awareness and to help get books into the hands of children across the country. To kick things off here, Sinclair is making a $25,000 donation. Find out how you can help by going to sinclaircares.com. I gotta tell you, I mean, really, it's a great time right now to go curl up with a good book. Meteorologist Amy Aronson. I don't know, when the seasons start to change, I start to fill up my bookshelf and just start to find good things to read throughout the season. I don't know, March is a good time to start, apparently.
Yeah, and why not do it outside today? It's going to be a really nice day ahead of us, much nicer than what we saw yesterday. The rain is gone, the fog is starting to clear, and we've got some sunshine shining down in on the Inner Harbor. Doesn't that look nice at this early hour? That's going to help warm us up, too. We're currently at a chilly 39 degrees, a little bit of fog still being reported, but we make a run for the mid-60s today, so we are looking forward to a warm and dry end to the weekend. The 60s will actually kick off a brand new work week, too, but then we've got a really unsettled stretch coming up. So I would say take full advantage of both today and tomorrow before the rain returns. And we've got some pretty nice temperatures ahead of us to do just that. If you want to enjoy some fresh air today, it's going to feel fantastic. We are heading into the low 60s this afternoon. Similar setup on Monday. So if you are lucky enough to have off of school or work and want to enjoy some time outside, we've got upper 50s by lunchtime on Monday, low to mid 60s by day's end. But then we've got some rain coming our way. So let's talk about the timing here. No rain today, no rain tomorrow. It's Tuesday that we see this first disturbance roll in from the south here. That's going to send us a batch of showers throughout the day on Tuesday. That's rain chance number 1. Here comes weather maker number 2. This moves in on Wednesday, so not much of a break there. We start your Wednesday morning off kind of soggy with some showers. Showers will continue much of Wednesday. We briefly will dry things out late Thursday into Friday. Friday's our break from the rain before this next weather maker arrives. This one scoots in just in time for the start of next weekend. So next weekend looks like we'll start off with the chilly rain, but it looks like it should actually get out of here by next Sunday. Let's talk about how much rain we're expecting. I'm going to zip you ahead a whole week here. So over the next week, with all of our rain chances, adding all of that up, it looks like most locations end up with close to 2 inches of rain. So these totals would take us all the way through next Saturday evening. Next weekend, we also spring forward. So don't forget, we're going to change our clocks. That means sunset's going to get pushed back an hour by Sunday. So although we lose that hour of sleep overnight Saturday into Sunday, the benefit is more daylight during the evening hours. And we should be able to enjoy it on Sunday. It's going to be drier by the end of the weekend with highs in the upper 50s at that point. Leading up to next weekend, though, we've got a ton of rain chances coming up. Not today, not tomorrow, but then here come the spring showers starting on Tuesday and Wednesday. I think we briefly dry things out Thursday into Friday, but then it looks like more rain to start off next weekend with highs in the cooler low 50s at that point. Taylor?
All right, thanks, Amy. Uber is rolling out new features to help families budget their kids' accounts. After the break, we're taking a look at how it will work. And still ahead, we're breaking down a new report that lists where people are in the most financial trouble across the U.S. We've got some good news for you, depending on how you take it. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. All right, topping your consumer news, a sigh of relief for Marylanders. Wallet Hub ranks Chicago, Houston, New York, and Los Angeles as the top U.S. cities where people are just stressed out about money. The report uses metrics like bankruptcy filings, credit scores, and financial accounts in forbearance. Other cities that are experiencing financial stress include Dallas, Vegas, Atlanta, and Jacksonville, Florida. Well, parents can now set some spending limits on their teens' Uber accounts. They can add unlimited funds, limited funds, or no spending allowed categories. They can also make adjustments. Teens will be able to use their own spending limits when they order rides or food, and parents will also get a notification when that allowance is almost up. Uber says it will bill accounts for only what they actually spend each month. Good measures there. Well, we're looking forward to a really nice Sunday for you as we move on into March. Meteorologist Amy Aronson's tracking how warm it's going to feel this afternoon. And Fox 45 News finds several of Baltimore's long-term projects are coming from short-term funding. What happens when the money runs dry and how it could impact your wallet? You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. Looking live over the Inner Harbor, a gorgeous start to your Sunday. It's March 3rd. You're in the right place. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's talk about your forecast here. Meteorologist Amy Aronson, it looks gorgeous outside. I need to step outside to verify if it feels as good as it looks.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's going to take a little time to feel really, really nice, but by the time we leave here later this afternoon, it's going to feel fantastic. So upper 30s, low 40s to start off your morning. Little cool to begin, but I promise all of these numbers are going to be warming up today and actually reaching spring-like levels. So make some outside plans. I know I'm probably going to head out on a hike later this afternoon. Take advantage of the 60s we have ahead of us. Low 60s on tap this afternoon, low to mid 60s in a lot of spots with plenty of sunshine too. And I would take advantage of the dry conditions both today and tomorrow, because after that, an unsettled pattern is going to get underway for the rest of the week, and that means a lot of rain. Coming up in just over 10 minutes, I'll break down our rain chances in more detail and let you know exactly how long the rain's going to stick around. Taylor?
This morning in a city in crisis, Mayor Scott's use of one-time federal COVID funding is once again coming under increased scrutiny. The mayor recently received some stark criticism from two mayoral challengers who argue Scott is using the money to invest in his own campaign, not the city.
The fire department not getting zero amount, which is a 24/7-day-a-week operation, could have benefited.
Completely frittered away to repay donors and developers and help improve your re-election chances.
Well, now more questions are being raised over some of the long-term programs that are receiving short-term funding. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has new information about how your tax dollars are being spent.
Yeah, many of the mayor's ARPA investments will require continued funding, which is why tonight a taxpayer advocate is questioning how the city will continue to afford these programs once that money runs out. Balancing Baltimore's 2024 budget, a battle for city leaders, mainly due to new Kerwin obligations.
It was a gut punch.
The landmark legislation pumping record funding into public education, pushing the city's budget into a multi-million-dollar deficit. To make do, money was shuffled, cuts were made, and now
We know that everybody's going to have to be tightening their belts around here.
little room is left for strengthening fundamental city departments, including police, fire, and public works.
Looking for large increases in any agency is not something that you should be looking for.
However, a saving grace amidst a struggling economy, $641 million in ARPA funding, a one-time gift from the federal government to offset financial hardships brought on by the pandemic. The only caveat, all the money must be spent by 2026. And yet, many of the initiatives Mayor Brandon Scott has chosen to invest in, long-term programs that can't be sustained on short-term funding. Among the mayor's ARPA expenditures coming under fire, nearly $15 million for Clean Corps, a program giving nonprofits funding to help pick up trash in the city.
As soon as that program ends, those communities are going to be right back to where they started from because they're not addressing the root causes.
Another $15 million purchasing 2 hotels to house more than 100 city residents experiencing homelessness. The project, uncharted territory for the city, costing taxpayers an additional $3 million for an outside management group to oversee 9 months of maintenance and operations.
So these costs are going to continue 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
And among the largest ARPA investments, $45 million for MONSI, the agency in charge of the mayor's violence intervention programs. Of that funding, $6 million set aside to expand staffing.
They are hiring a lot of staff, and that's going to be a fiscal liability for the city way after 2026, and the ARPA money runs out. Where is the city going to come up with funds, whether it's MONSI or any other program?
Taxpayer advocate David Williams warning the long-term toll investing in these long-term initiatives will have on residents.
Are they going to have to raise taxes? Or are they going to have to cut services in other areas?
The answer, unclear.
The city missed the point with this funding. It should have been one-time expenditures.
As the city continues to spend funds today, they won't have in the future.
Well, Fox 45 has reached out to the mayor with those concerns. His office sent us a statement reading, quote, raising taxes is not an option currently being considered to support these long-term projects. Viability has been at the forefront of all decisions regarding ARPA funding, and attempts to indicate otherwise are unfortunately ill-informed. At the same time, though, questions are being raised over how the city is holding the organizations that receive ARPA funding accountable. On Friday, an inspector general report detailed how a nonprofit misspent more than $129,000 of ARPA funding. Fox 45 News confirmed the nonprofit Lazarus Wright was hired to work with the mayor's Clean Corps program. They then used the funds to pay for unrelated business expenses, according to this report. The city's contract with the nonprofit was canceled, and the city is demanding the organization repay those funds. However, the IG is not optimistic Baltimore will get that money back.
How much of that has been paid back?
$500.
What is the likelihood that the city will see this money again?
Not very likely. Can you squeeze blood from a turnip? I don't know.
Fox 45 News sent questions to the Baltimore Civic Fund, the Planning Department, and the Mayor's office asking, was this nonprofit properly vetted? And should the city strengthen its vetting process before granting more nonprofits ARPA funding? The mayor sent us a statement applauding the city for swiftly addressing the issue, but not answering our questions directly. It's not the first time there have been questions about how nonprofits are spending your tax dollars. Government watchdog group Open the Books is tracking public dollars that go to nonprofits and found that more than 20 of the top 100 recipients are not in compliance with Maryland's Secretary of State.
The vetting process at the city has to be broken. No one's asking the basic question, are you properly registered with the state before we cut you millions of dollars worth of city money on grants?
Look, you can find out more about those nonprofits on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
The story time and time again from teachers, from parents, from students is that the classroom is completely out of control.
In your Session 2024 coverage, lawmakers are pushing to decriminalize disruptive behavior in school as juvenile crime continues to spike across the state. House Bill 615 and Senate Bill 512 would prevent students from being criminally charged for some forms of disruptive behavior in class. According to the bill, the students would even be exempt from penalties for threatening school employees with bodily harm, even if that threat is made while on school grounds. Now, Senator Alonzo Washington introduced this bill to address the school-to-prison pipeline and racial disparities and punishment, pointing out it doesn't prevent a child from being charged with breaking the law on school grounds.
What it is to ensure that students are not arrested for simple disciplinary matters. You guys are going around saying that it's anti-teacher. This is about ensuring that our classrooms are safe and that students have the ability to learn in their classroom and not be sent out for just purely disruptions.
Lawmakers worry it may make teachers' jobs a little bit harder and put students in the classroom at risk.
Inside the classroom, I've not heard one teacher who says this bill is the way to go.
My concern is with if you remove this tool from the toolbox, that there's more likely to be escalation where you have other students in the class could potentially get injured or harmed because of an escalation if this is taken out of the toolbox.
Fox 45 News has been keeping you up to date with everything happening in Annapolis this session. For our full list of stories, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
We have to change our lives around this fear of flying now.
Still ahead, how one couple's frightening flight experience is paving the way for legislation to keep airline passengers safe.
And I am tracking a nice little warming trend for the week. For the first full week of March, it's going to feel like it. We've got mid-60s ahead of us for the next 2 days, but then we're back in the upper 50s. As these mild temperatures stick around, rain chances will actually be on the rise. I've got an updated look at our weather makers moving in this week in a couple of minutes. It's 7:39. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News.
Making headlines, a Portland couple says their lives have been changed forever after being just inches away from that door plug that flew off an Alaska Airlines flight back in January. Now they're teaming up with another passenger on that plane to sue Alaska Airlines and Boeing. Shelby Slaughter with our affiliate in that Portland has the story.
It's the sound of an airplane taking off. That still sits with Amanda Strickland and her boyfriend, Kyle Rinker.
I don't think there's been a day that's gone by that we haven't thought about it.
They tell me they were both seated just 2 rows diagonally behind where the door blew off Flight 1282. And it's something they still think about every day.
Now we have to change our lives around this fear of flying now.
They still can't believe it happened and say the chilling whipping of the wind when the door plug blew off still haunts them.
It was so intense, the whole thing. We couldn't hear anything that was going on. All we felt was the air and heard the sound of the air rushing by.
Their attorney, Jonathan Johnson, says the warning signs were there and people shouldn't have been on this flight to begin with.
The issue with Alaska is on this particular aircraft, they had gotten several warnings, air pressure monitor warnings. In fact, I think they had said this aircraft couldn't fly over water.
As traumatizing as the experience was for the couple, they say it had the potential of being much worse. As Strickland recalls how she almost switched seats with a teenager sitting in the row where the blowout happened, and says she's grateful she didn't.
When we touched down in the plane, I just started sobbing because I knew that I almost asked to sit there.
Strickland says she loves the window seat and knows if they would have switched, she would have been sitting at that very seat when chaos erupted.
Tense moments there. Well, it feels a lot like spring this afternoon, that is. Meteorologist Amy Aronson is going to tell you how warm it's going to feel, plus our chance for rain this coming week. Stick with us here at Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. All right, the seasons just feel like they're changing. And if you look outside your window right now, you're going to see a nice little orange glow as the sun is up. It's going to be a great day. And the temperatures, they're looking on up. Meteorologist Amy Aronson, just how warm they're getting is really my question.
Yeah, it's going to feel like spring today, and we are getting a little spring preview, at least over the next couple of days. Spring is right around the corner. We kicked off meteorological spring back on the 1st, but now we're awaiting all the other holidays that come during the month or the months of spring. So first of all, we spring forward in only 7 days. So in just about a week, at that point, our average highs are in the low 50s. We'll be well above that today, of course. St. Patrick's Day will follow in 14 days, average highs in the mid 50s. by then. Spring equinox in 16 days with average highs also in the mid-50s. Orioles home opener, that's exciting stuff. 25 days until we're all back at Camden Yards. 59 degrees will be our average high by the end of the month. And then we kick off Easter at the very tail end of March in 28 days. And at that point, our average high climbs up to 60 degrees. We are going to make a run for the 60s today, so we are getting a little preview of that warmth. Already temperatures are improving, warming their way through the 30s and into the 40s. Mid and upper 40s in a lot of spots already early on this Sunday morning. Now, our neighbors to the west are waking up to a lot of snow. Feet and feet of snow have fallen there with this next weather maker. But for us, things remain pretty quiet here on the East Coast. We've got high pressure to our north, helping keep us dry at least today and tomorrow. So we're not tracking much of anything, at least in the short term. Next 2 days look really great. Take advantage of the fresh air and the 60s, both today and again Monday, too. Monday, we'll start to see increasing clouds with the rain holding off until Tuesday. So let's talk about all the rain coming our way this week. We are dry for the next 48 hours, but late Monday, you'll start to see some showers rush in from the west here as a system actually develops to our south. So that's our next little weather maker, sends us some rain on Tuesday. Doesn't last all day. I think we briefly dry out Tuesday night through Wednesday morning, but then here comes our next weather maker, sending us rain again by midday on Wednesday. That rain will actually take us Wednesday night into early Thursday before we dry out again. So another brief pause in our rain chances Friday, but then it looks like another storm is coming our way late Friday heading into Saturday. And yeah, that means more rain to start off next weekend. So at least rain to begin that weekend. So here's a look at all of our rain chances. No rain chances today or tomorrow, highs in the mid-60s. After that, we'll settle back into the 50s for much of the week as rain chances increase. I think our highest chances for rain come Tuesday and Wednesday. We get a brief break Thursday into Friday, but then it looks like we'll be tracking more rain for the start of next weekend with high temperatures in the low 50s at that point. Taylor?
All right, sounds good. Well, Cole Irvin continues to shine for the O's this spring. Coming up next in Sports Unlimited, why the team could be leaning on his arm in the early months of the season.
Welcome into your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Having depth isn't a bad thing, and it's exactly what you're seeing with the O's and the best farm system in all of baseball. From the veterans to the prospects, so much talent. And for general manager Mike Elias, that's a good problem to have when it comes to making decisions. O's taking on the Yankees, Cole Irvin on the mound as he makes his run at a spot in the starting rotation. 3 strong innings from Irvin, 3 hits, 1 walk, no earned, and that's a good thing. Julio Teheran got the first appearance as an Oriole, retires the Yankees in order, getting Kevin Smith to strike out to end the inning. Bottom 5, Austin Hayes going to open up the scoring with a solo homer. 1-0 O's. And then in the 7th, Kyle Stowers with an absolute 2-run bomb as he continues to stay hot this spring. O's beat the Yankees 7-3, the final score. Through 2 spring training starts, Cole Irvin has tossed 5 innings with no earned runs and 3 strikeouts. He's been fantastic. And with John Means unlikely to get any action in Grapefruit League this spring, the O's could look to Irvin to be a significant part of that rotation early on. To NFL's offseason, we're coming up on a big week for the Ravens and defensive lineman Justin Madubuike. The franchise tag deadline, it's Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, and the 2 sides have yet to come to a long-term deal. If that doesn't happen, the Ravens plan to use the tag on Madubuike, which would cost them $22.1 million against their cap. Towson wrapping up the final regular season game with UNC Wilmington, and this game bigger than most, with the winner getting a double bye in next week's conference tournament. Welcome to March. Tigers in a battle late. Towson came into this one averaging just under 12 turnovers per game. Tigers careless with the ball, 19 against the Seahawks. This one leads to points at the other end, and Shaquem Phillips fires up the crowd. Down 6 with 40 to go. Charles Thompson with the big board and the putback. A huge game for Charles, but he would be tossed from the game late after this altercation. Tigers fall 75-64. They get the number 5 seed and face the winner of North Carolina A&T and William and Mary. Talk about an improbable comeback. Loyola taking on Army, down 5 with 17 to go. Jordan Stemke from 3. Buckets, it's a 2-point game. Madness late, down 1. Greyhound steal, Golden DK with the go-ahead bucket as Loyola wins an absolute thriller, 69-68. Loyola women in contention for that Patriot League regular season title. A win would help that cause. Let's check this out. Lex Terrian led the way with 17 and 14 as Loyola goes on to beat Army 55-52. She is a double-double machine. Over at CFG Bank Arena, 2 CIAA championship games going down in the women's game. Fayetteville State beats Elizabeth City State 64-59. 17 points from Kiana McLaughlin got them the win, with Lincoln beating Fayetteville State in the men's game 51-54. The Baltimore Catholic League Championship is now set. Archbishop Spalding beating Mount St. Joe, and St. Francis Academy picking up a win over Mount Carmel to advance to Sunday's title game. Those 2 teams going to square off at Goucher College with tip set for 3 p.m. Top 10 women's lacrosse matchup between number 9 Maryland and 10th ranked Denver. Victoria Hench led the way for the Terps with a hat trick as Maryland moves to 4-1 with the victory. In men's action, Towson playing host to UMBC, and the Retrievers had no answer for Mikey Weischer. Not 1, not 2, but 5 goals in the game as Towson beats UMBC 17-7. In other scores, Johns Hopkins, they pick up a win over Virginia 16-14 in men's action to grab the Doyle Smith Cup, and number 8 Loyola women's lacrosse beats number 25 Penn State 14-10. Chase Boyle tying her career high with 6 goals. So he's Birdland's favorite country boy in the 2023 AL Rookie of the Year. In his first full MLB season, Gunnar Henderson lived up to all the hype and then some. While he hasn't played yet in the spring due to an oblique injury, Henderson's return to the field is on the horizon. He talks about how he's keeping his foot on the gas pedal in 2024, one-on-one.
This year's really putting emphasis on just winning some playoff games and trying to make a World Series push. So feel like we have a good squad to do that, and looking forward to doing it.
Fans are missing you out there, man. They want to know how the oblique is, how you're doing, and like what your timeline kind of looks like right now, getting back to the field and playing baseball again.
Yeah, I'm pretty much full go now, so I'd say within the next couple days, probably sometime next week. Should be in games. So.
Is it tough for you? You're such a competitor, not being able to be out there right now. I know it's soon. I know it's not the biggest deal in the world, but just sitting back and watching you guys, like how much do you want to be out there right now?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to get out there and see some pitching and get ready for the season. Obviously, I mean, it's not fun just sitting there watching all the time, but yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out there and getting back to some baseball activity.
This team accomplished so much last season. I mean, what is this group capable of heading into 2024? The group that you guys have, the returning core coming up, and young players coming up through the ranks as well.
Yeah, I feel like we just scratched the surface. We didn't have obviously the run we wanted in playoffs last year, so everybody's coming back with that mentality of we want to just go out there and win each and every game and ultimately make it to the World Series. So everybody has that right mindset, and we're going to continue to go out there and play Oriole baseball and try to bring one home.
You were so young when you came up through the ranks, and you were the #1 overall prospect. Jackson is in a much similar situation than you were. What has impressed you the most about his poise, kind of doing all this, handling all this, the pressure and whatnot? And have you guys had a conversation just about how to handle all that?
Yeah, I mean, he's had a good upbringing. I mean, obviously his dad was an incredible baseball player, so he's definitely given him some insight on how to approach it, and it seems like he has a really good head on his shoulders for the situation that he's been put in. So it's really cool to be able to watch, and I know he's going to go out there and be successful.
Gunnar, the last thing I got for you, man, off field aside, like on the field aside, like how much fun are you having down here with your guys, being back with your friends, your brothers here?
Yeah, it's awesome. The house that we got here, we got 5 of us staying at it, so there's always something going on. So it's pretty cool to be able to just have that to go back to and just kind of chill out and just do some random stuff. So it's pretty fun. We'll get into fishing and just any type of like sports and stuff. We'll just hang out and pretty much just do dude stuff.
Who doesn't like doing dude stuff? That's your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Thanks for watching and have a great Sunday.
Temporary federal relief funding being used to finance long-term city projects. Why some are criticizing the mayor's spending decisions. And a recent violence involving illegal immigrants has some sounding the alarm over border security. Why one particular policy is facing more scrutiny than ever.
And we are looking forward to a fantastic end to the weekend. Unfortunately, it's not going to last long. I'll let you know of some changes coming our way this week in a few minutes.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good Sunday morning to you, looking live over Towson. Just think about this. About 2 months ago, we were looking at some snow-covered trees. Maybe 3 or 4 months before that, they were fall foliage before us. But look, it's the sound, the smell, the moments of spring. At least it's getting close. Thanks for being with us this Sunday. It's March 3rd. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's get to your forecast because meteorologist Amy Aronson will explain more of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's coming right around the corner. We're going to get a little preview, at least weather-wise today. Mid-40s to start off your day. We are going to end the day about 20 degrees warmer. So temperatures are going to climb today with the help of that sunshine that we're now seeing take over. So we just saw that in Towson. We're going to see it everywhere today. Perfect morning to get out and get the dog for a walk. Temperatures will be improving, so with each passing hour here, little warmer. We're in the upper 40s to start, low 50s by 10 a.m. By the end of the morning, we're already nearing that nice 60-degree mark. So take advantage of the mild temperatures and the dry conditions we have today. You'll have one more opportunity tomorrow, but after that, a very unsettled pattern is going to take over this week, and basically that means I'm tracking a lot of rain. I'll take you through the timeline for the rain in the week ahead in more detail in just over 10 minutes. Taylor?
All right, sounds good, Amy. This morning in a city in crisis, Mayor Scott's use of one-time federal COVID funding is coming under scrutiny. Now, he recently received some stark criticism from mayoral challengers who argue that Scott is using the money to help his own campaign chances.
The fire department not getting zero amount, which is a 24/7-day-a-week operation, could have benefited.
Completely frittered away to repay donors and developers and help improve your reelection chances.
Now, more questions are being raised after some of that long-term funding is set to dry up for some short-term programs. Now, Rebecca Pryor has new information about how your tax dollars are being spent.
Yeah, many of the mayor's ARPA investments will require continued funding, which is why tonight a taxpayer advocate is questioning how the city will continue to afford these programs once that money runs out. Balancing Baltimore's 2024 budget, a battle for city leaders, mainly due to new Kerwin obligations.
It was a gut punch.
The landmark legislation pumping record funding into public education, pushing the city's budget into a multi-million-dollar deficit. To make do, money was shuffled, cuts were made, and now
We know that everybody's going to have to be tightening their belts around here.
little room is left for strengthening fundamental city departments, including police, fire, and public works.
Looking for large increases in any agency is not something that you should be looking for.
However, a saving grace amidst a struggling economy, $641 million in ARPA funding, a one-time gift from the federal government to offset financial hardships brought on by the pandemic. The only caveat, all the money must be spent by 2026. And yet, many of the initiatives Mayor Brandon Scott has chosen to invest in, long-term programs that can't be sustained on short-term funding. Among the mayor's ARPA expenditures coming under fire, nearly $15 million for Clean Corps, a program giving nonprofits funding to help pick up trash in the city.
As soon as that program ends, those communities are going to be right back to where they started from because they're not addressing the root causes.
Another $15 million purchasing 2 hotels to house more than 100 city residents experiencing homelessness. The project, uncharted territory for the city, costing taxpayers an additional $3 million for an outside management group to oversee 9 months of maintenance and operations.
So these costs are going to continue 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
And among the largest ARPA investments, $45 million for Monzi, the agency in charge of the mayor's violence intervention programs, Of that funding, $6 million set aside to expand staffing.
They are hiring a lot of staff, and that's going to be a fiscal liability for the city way after 2026, and the ARPA money runs out. Where is the city going to come up with funds, whether it's Monzi or any other program?
Taxpayer advocate David Williams warning the long-term toll investing in these long-term initiatives will have on residents.
Are they going to have to raise taxes? Or are they going to have to cut services in other areas?
The answer, unclear.
The city missed the point with this funding. It should have been one-time expenditures.
As the city continues to spend funds today, they won't have in the future.
Well, Fox 45 News has reached out to the mayor with those very concerns. His office sent us a statement and reads here, in quote, "Raising taxes is not an option currently being considered to support these projects. Long-term viability has been at the forefront of all decisions regarding ARPA funding, and attempts to indicate otherwise are unfortunately ill-informed." At the same time, questions are being raised over how the city is holding organizations that receive that ARPA funding accountable. On Friday, an inspector general report detailed how a nonprofit misspent more than $129,000 of ARPA funds. Fox 45 News confirmed the nonprofit Lazarus Wright was hired to work with the mayor's Clean Core group. They, rather than use that funds to help clean up the city, apparently, according to the report, it paid for unrelated business expenses. The city's contract with the nonprofit was canceled. The city's demanding they pay back the money, but the IG is not optimistic. Baltimore will see that money again.
How much of that has been paid back?
$500.
What is the likelihood that the city will see this money again?
Not very likely. Can you squeeze blood from a turnip? I don't know.
Well, we sent questions to the Baltimore Civic Fund, the Planning Department, and the mayor's office asking, was this nonprofit properly vetted? And should the city strengthen its vetting process before granting more nonprofits ARPA funding? The mayor sent us a statement applauding the city for swiftly addressing the issue, but not answering our questions directly. An effort to release a woman convicted in a quadruple murder case, raising some concerns here. A closer look at the reason behind the release as the victim's family speaks out.
And we have a pretty rainy week ahead of us. Showers will return on Tuesday and then continue actually all the way through the start of next weekend. I'll break down the timeline of all these showers in just a couple of minutes. It's 8:07. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News.
Turning now to counties under pressure. When Prince George's State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy was elected, she promised to review old cases and shorten sentences as she viewed too harshly. Now, one of the victims' family says in this case, the effort's gone too far. Brad Bell with our affiliate in D.C. has a closer look at the case that involves a life sentence and a mass murder where the victims here, one 4 years old, another just 5.
It happened in a trash-strewn garage apartment behind a house in Riverdale, August 2010. The mass murder of a mother, 2 small children, and their aunt. At the time, even hardened detectives called it the worst crime scene they'd ever encountered. Eventually, these 2 people, Daryl Ballard and Takesha Gilmer, were sentenced to life in prison for the drug-related execution-style murders. Now, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy and her Sentencing Integrity Unit are fighting to get Gilmer out of prison, filing this motion, arguing in a hearing that Gilmer was groomed and abused by Ballard and was essentially an unwilling participant in the crime. The Assistant State's Attorney now fighting for Gilmer's release in court, saying that she has been a model prisoner, that she's learned to write poetry and do crochet, and says that she has cooperated with the prosecution of her co-defendant since the start.
I feel like what's happening is an exercise to forget the victims, to just like wash them away as if these killings, these murders didn't happen.
Sade Newsom was 19 when the murders happened. She lost her mother and her little brother and sister. She was stunned when a staffer for Braveboy called her after the motion had been filed and saying she was not informed that there would be a hearing. An attorney herself, she learned about it from the court's website.
My heart just felt so much pain. You expect a defendant to try to get out, but for the state's attorney's office to be a part of that mission in this case, again, it's just devastating.
While she calls the effort a miscarriage of justice, the assistant state's attorney on the case stands by his belief that Gilmer was over-sentenced for her involvement. The judge not ruling either way, but agreeing to another hearing in June to decide if Gilmer has a right to a reconsideration of sentence. In Upper Marlboro, Brad Bell, 7 News.
The Maryland State Supreme Court could soon rule on a similar situation involving the family of Heyman Lee, the Baltimore student who was murdered in the case at the center of the true crime podcast Serial. Anad Syed's conviction was vacated, but the Lee family appealed and is calling for a new hearing. They say they were given very little notice to give a statement to the court in this motion to vacate Syed, and they feel they were left in the dark by the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office. A ruling could set precedent in Maryland, setting clear guidelines on how victims and their families should be notified when those convicted of crimes could have those convictions tossed out. A man convicted of rape while in the country illegally back in the U.S. once again on the run after the break. We have another edition of Maryland's Most Wanted. Investigators say an illegal rape suspect left the country and was able to come back once again and is now on the run. Alexa Ashwell has Maryland's Most Wanted.
This mugshot of Jose Pavan Fermin was taken about a year ago. That's when investigators say he was arrested in Connecticut, and also when authorities realized he had illegally re-entered the U.S. after being convicted of rape and deported. The U.S. Marshal Service now believes he's somewhere here in Maryland.
January 2023, Norwalk, Connecticut. Police take a man into custody for disturbing the peace. But little did officers know this misdemeanor crime would lead to the discovery of a convicted rapist who once again was in the United States illegally. Investigators identify the man as Jose Pavan Fermin.
This individual has shown a propensity for violence.
The U.S. Marshal Service taking us back to the original crime. July 2016, Norwalk, Connecticut. Investigators say Pavan Fermin followed a woman onto a public bus, and once the two got off at the same stop, lured her into his apartment.
Unfortunately, it was there that she was forcibly raped.
Investigators say the woman reported the rape and identified her attacker as Pavan Fermin, 32 years old and in the country illegally. 4 months later, Pavan Fermin is arrested.
Ultimately, he was found guilty and sentenced to jail time.
Sentenced to 5 years in prison and 10 years probation, according to court records. After serving his sentence, Pavan Fermin is released to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and in 2021 is deported to Honduras. But just a year and a half later, investigators say Pavan Fermin somehow re-enters the U.S., commits another crime in the very same city, and then is mistakenly released before ICE could respond and take him into custody. Pavan Fermin goes back on the run.
He knows he's actually wanted for illegal reentry. He understands that he has an obligation to register as a sex offender, so he fled Connecticut.
Now, a year later, the U.S. Marshal Service joining the search. Deputy Marshal Al Maresca speaking to the challenges in tracking down an undocumented criminal.
There's multiple barriers to solving crimes whenever the offender is here illegally. It's going to be extremely hard to track them. You have family members who understand that these people are dangerous individuals. Frequently, they too fear deportation, and so they are not willing to approach law enforcement.
According to Maresca, intel has led investigators to Maryland, where the U.S. Marshal Service believes Pavan Fermin is hiding out.
Based upon his contacts in the community, we have every reason to believe he's staying somewhere between Baltimore and D.C.
How concerning is this?
Well, it's ultimately very concerning. This individual has shown a propensity for violence. He's shown a complete disregard for the law, and he knows he's subject to deportation. We have every indication that he will, continue to commit crimes.
Take a good look. Pavan Fermin, now 39 years old, stands at about 5'6" and weighs approximately 200 pounds. Investigators say he sometimes goes by different last names, including Pavan, Paban, or Cruz. Investigators say he has a tattoo on his right arm and warn he is known to have violent tendencies. If you have any information regarding his whereabouts, you're asked to contact the U.S. Marshal Service. The tip line number, 1-877-WANTED-2. Or you can contact agents directly at 202-819-5058.
Update. Just 1 week after appearing on Maryland's Most Wanted, a convicted bank robber accused of escaping from a reentry center here in Baltimore has been captured. According to the U.S. Marshal Service, investigators received information William Carl Miller had fled to Pennsylvania. He was located by a state trooper and taken into custody without incident.
If you recognize any of our fugitives, remember, you can always remain anonymous and you could earn a reward. I'm Alexa Ashwell, and this is Maryland's Most Wanted.
All right, let's go ahead and get another look at your forecast here. Meteorologist Amy Aronson, we're in for a warm up. We had some rain bring us in on Saturday morning. Today we've got the sunshine. What a great way to start the month.
Yeah, much better today than what we had yesterday, at least to get things started. We're looking at blue skies and sunshine, looking downtown right now, and that's going to stick around today, helping us bring us out of the 40s and into the mid-60s by the afternoon. So I am tracking a nice warm and dry end to the weekend and start to a brand new week, too. We're tracking highs in the 60s both today and tomorrow. That's all before a series of weather makers head our direction, and then we're going to be tracking an unsettled stretch coming up after that. So take advantage of the next 2 days. I think highs reached the mid-60s today with all that sunshine. Tomorrow we'll replace the sunshine with the clouds, but temperatures will still manage to warm their way into the very mild upper 50s and low to mid-60s by day's end. And that's all before a series of weather makers push in. So today and tomorrow, dry for the next 48 hours. But here comes that first little disturbance rolling in from the south. Tuesday, setting us showers throughout the day then. Next system will follow, also coming in from the south and the west. This one sends us more rain, I think, Wednesday into Thursday. After that, we'll briefly dry out for the second half of your Thursday heading into your Friday. But then it looks like another weather maker already waiting in the wings. This one's going to push in next Saturday. So if you're planning ahead next weekend already for outdoor plans, I'd say an early look at the weekend shows rain on Saturday and then dry again by Sunday, kind of like what we saw this weekend. Here's a look at how much rain we're expecting all the way through next Saturday. You'll notice the numbers just keep climbing. And yeah, by the end of the week, looks like most of us end up with at least an inch of rain, closer to 2 inches in a lot of spots. And if you're wondering, is this pattern going to stick around? Looks like it. According to the Climate Prediction Center and their 8 to 14-day temperature outlook that runs from March 10th all the way through the 16th, we're still included in this green color, meaning a decent chance for wetter than average conditions all the way through mid-March. And our 7-day forecast shows wetter than average conditions, too. We're dry for 2 days, mid-60s both today and tomorrow. Nicest days of the week by far, because then we've got rain coming through. I think our highest chances for rain come Tuesday and Wednesday. A brief break heads our direction late Thursday into Friday, but then we are tracking more showers for the start of next weekend with highs in the low 50s at that point.
All right, thanks, Amy. Developing now, the Baltimore City Fire Department, along with Mayor Brandon Scott and the American Red Cross, they held a fire safety sweep in East Baltimore. It was in response to a row home fire in the area that killed 3 people last week. The victims were 8, 13, and 12 years old. The mayor called this incident a terrible tragedy.
We know that we had an unthinkable tragedy here, where we lost lives and young lives here. But we know this doesn't have to happen in Baltimore. This is why this is critical.
During the sweep, residents were offered free smoke detectors. They learned about best practices when it comes to fire safety and were told about the dangers associated with residential home fires. Senate President Bill Ferguson shared this message with those in attendance.
This is a really important message, and the message is a fire can start anywhere, anytime, and you have to be prepared. We are here today in the midst of tragedy, and it is just horrifying to know that incidents like this can be prevented if they just have the right tools in place.
Look, local leaders are saying if you are unsure about how to install a smoke alarm, if you don't have one, if you have any questions, just go ahead and call 311. Within 2 hours, a firefighter will be at your front door with help to make sure you can install it properly. FOX45 News is asking what's next after a plan to tackle juvenile crime passes in the State House. We're taking a closer look at 2 different versions of the bill and the main sticking points that are raising some red flags. And are you feeling some financial strain? Why the city you live in could contribute to just how much financial stress you have. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News Weekend Edition. All local, all morning. All right, topping your consumer news here. Wallet Hub says Chicago, Houston, New York, Los Angeles, they top the cities where people have the most financial stress. Notice we're not on that list. The report uses metrics like bankruptcy filings, credit scores, financial accounts that are in forbearance. Other cities that are also experiencing financial strain include Dallas, Vegas, Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida. I'd throw Miami in there as well. Okay, we have this conversation every month, every 3 months or so, but it's back again. Cable analysts are projecting Netflix could raise its membership rates again this year. USBC says membership fees could go up by 5%, with scaling revenues playing a part in the rising prices. The company previously made small monthly fee increases on some tiers back in mid-October as advertisement options came online. So we'll have to look out and see for that. Let's go ahead and check out our America's Steals and Deals. Maybe we're winning there.
The following segment is sponsored by Knocking.
You guys, what are two things you lose the most? It's your keys and it's your phone. And it's so frustrating. I know this because I spend hours every day looking for these items. So listen up. You don't want to miss this buy one, get one exclusive deal on the Key Smart Pro. Now, the Key Smart Pro organizes up to 14 keys in one little device. Literally every guy on the set has one in his pocket right now. And as we are setting up this display, people were actually trying to take them. So my advice is buy this now for everyone you love, because they're not going to last. It takes all those keys in the drawer, the bottom of your purse, and puts them right into one little thing, and it connects to a free app. So if you lose your keys, you press the button on the app. You lose your phone, you press the button on the keychain. Even if your phone is on silent, you can find it. It's a win-win. They find each other, guys. You know how many hours this saves us? For me, like probably 6 hours a day. I bet you have someone in your life that needs one of these. My family literally impersonates me by putting on a pair of sunglasses and saying, "Where's my phone? Where's my keys?" And now with this buy one, get one free deal, it's the perfect time to get one for you, someone you love, in all of these great colors. Remember, this is a buy one, get one free. Do not wait. Go to asadeals.com.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. Looking live over our gorgeous Charm City on this Sunday morning. It's 8:30. You're watching Fox 45. It's March 3rd already. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's go ahead and talk about your forecast, because as you can see outside, it looks like a really nice start to your work week and your Sunday. Meteorologist Amy Aronson, it's only getting better.
Only getting better. That's right. We're in the 40s right now, but these numbers are going to warm about 20 degrees by the end of the day. So it's going to feel really nice out there this afternoon. Little taste of spring for us both today and actually tomorrow too, before we change things up. Take advantage of the fresh air today. Maybe take a walk with the family. We've got a nice mix of sun and clouds through the afternoon. No need to worry about the rain today. And temperatures are running about 10 to 15 degrees above where they should be for early March. So we should be in the low 50s. Instead, we are tracking low to mid 60s as we head through the rest of the day. Tomorrow will look pretty similar to this planner, but after that, we are going to change things up. We're tracking a pretty unsettled weather pattern that kicks off on Tuesday. Coming up in 15 minutes, I've got an updated look at when the rain actually gets started and then how long it sticks around this week, too. Taylor?
There is no amendment to this bill that would satisfy that for me.
This time, we need to take it seriously. We need to make sure and hold accountable our law enforcement officers and make sure that they do what they are supposed to do righteously.
Since the implementation of the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, less than 2 years later, we are willing to roll back all of the advances that we made.
Now to your session 2024 coverage. New juvenile crime laws are one step closer to a reality after House Bill 814 passed on Friday. Now, the Senate is set to vote on this measure tomorrow. After that, lawmakers from both houses will have to negotiate a final joint version. As it stands, the House version calls for the creation of a commission to gather more data about juvenile crime. It also extends probation. It gets states' attorneys involved earlier in the charging process and expands the Department of Juvenile Services jurisdiction to open the door for kids who commit certain crimes, kids as young as 10 and 12 years old, to come in contact with the department. This does not include kids who steal cars for the first time and have a gun. They could face charges.
Would be the opportunity for the child to go through a diversion program. If they came back with another charge for car theft, then they would be subject to juvenile jurisdiction.
The diversionary programs, though, are not in place everywhere, which is raising concerns about the reality of implementing the plan.
Does the bill address any funding for diversion programs?
So we don't usually deal with funding, but that is an issue that certainly is part of the budgetary process.
One state attorney FOX45 spoke with raised some early concerns with the House crime package, saying DJS does not have the resources.
No one is offended by giving young people treatment, but DJS doesn't have the resources nor the programs, and instead of holding children accountable for, in many instances, increasingly violent crime, we're putting them into a system that cannot deal with the numbers of children that are being forwarded to them for treatment.
This bill isn't the only issue with the sticking points we're seeing here. There are three main concerns with both versions of the bill. For some delegates, they say, when it comes to the House version, critics say it's too soft on young children who steal cars. They argue that kids ages 10 to 12 who steal a car should go right away to DJS. As for the Senate version, there's some similar concerns over filing what's called a SINS petition. It's the first time a child between the ages of 10 or 12 steals a car. We'll talk about that more in a second here. But both bills call for an extension for probation for young people. But in some cases, some people are concerned that Secretary Vincent Giraldi may not stand behind the measure. He's spoken in favor of ending probation altogether. Well, we have reached out to him to see if he's indicated a change in his position, but we've not yet heard back.
The governor has shown us time and time again that he is more committed to maintaining his relationship with Giraldi than rehabilitating young people.
However, the governor has repeatedly said Giraldi's views will not stand in the way of this legislation.
While we might have people within the administration who might in other jobs have said X, Y, or Z, we're also very clear that we're one team here, and these are policies that are going to be followed within our administration with me as the team captain.
All right. Well, by all means, the real debate on this crime package gets underway tomorrow as lawmakers return to Annapolis. Let's go ahead and bring in political analyst John Deedy. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, so let's tackle this a few ways. Let's first talk about the things we saw potentially coming down the pipeline In the House version, they aim to get the state attorneys involved earlier in the charging process and extend probation. Do you think this provision makes it through the Senate? We've seen a lot of stumping for this, particularly on the part of Ivan Bates, Aisha Braveboy, state attorneys throughout Maryland, really.
I can see this getting through the Senate in a compromise. The Senate Bill 744, that's going to be voted on Monday. And I think there's a strong sense to do something about the juvenile crime situation because it has the appearance of getting out of control. And the two things they're really trying to focus on, rehabilitation and accountability. And the governor over and over again and other legislative leaders have said the word accountability, accountability, accountability. And when you have people like Ivan Bates, who's probably the most popular and powerful political figure in the Baltimore region, getting behind this type of legislation, everyone else wants to get behind him.
Another point we could see really ramp up this week. Friday, arguably the most tense debate in the House came down to a provision that opens the door for children as young as 10 years old to come in contact with the Department of Juvenile Services. Now, if you listen to much of the comments from the floor, the crux of the debate not only comes down to age, but also race. And that provision is not in the Senate version of their juvenile crime package. Do you think that'll be a sticking point as this bill moves into the Maryland Senate for debate?
I think it could be a sticking point because a lot of people are concerned, people 10 to 12, they're not very bright. They're young. They're kids. They're bound to do something young, dumb, and stupid. And I think a lot of people want to basically say, first time you do something like that, we can't just be throwing handcuffs on people and getting them through that type of system. A lot of people have talked about diversionary programs, et cetera. That could be a good way to kind of prevent someone from making a worse mistake the second time. And I think that's more likely where a lot of people are going to go with this.
And I think that's what's going to become really the crux of that debate as folks look at, do we get them involved with DJS for diversionary programs or steer clear from involving a child that young? We'll have to see on that. Any other crucial takeaways you think we should look out for this week?
The one thing that jumped out with this whole debate, and it comes down to what's going on in Annapolis, is budget, budget, budget. Everybody wants certain things. The governor's budget is really taking a knife to a lot of programs, such as for senior citizens and for Gen X people. And people are saying with this program, it's a nice idea to do all these wonderful things. Where's the money going to come from? And I think that question is, who's getting in line first? Is it more important to spend money on this? Is it more important to reinstate prescription drug coverage for retirees? Is it more important to fund community colleges? There's a lot of people in line for this. And sooner or later, it's not this year, it's next year, structural deficit, they got to find some revenue, which is another way of saying they got to increase some taxes or do something along those lines because they seem reluctant to decrease spending.
Juvenile crime budgetary measures, a lot on the floor and very little time to tackle it all. We'll continue to stay up to date on everything happening in Annapolis. We'll bring you back. Thank you so much for joining us. Political analyst John Dede.
You're welcome.
That brings us to our question of the day here. Will the juvenile crime bills make a difference in the crime crisis? So far, 96% of those who have voted say no. You can head over to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Two very different messages on the crisis at the border, how we got here and how to fix it. I'm Christine Frizzell with one policy in particular facing more scrutiny than ever.
And I am tracking a spring-like stretch with temperatures in the 60s for a couple of days, followed by the upper 50s for the rest of the week. Unfortunately, the warm weather also comes with some rain. I've got an updated look at all the rain moving our direction this week. How much we're expecting in a couple of minutes. It's 8:39. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the events happening in our region today. All right, starting at about 25 minutes, I guess, here. If you are a Maryland resident, if you own a Kia, if you own a Hyundai and have a physical key to start your vehicle, go ahead and bring your license and registration to one of the 14 Maryland State Police blocks. You can get a free steering wheel lock today. Go ahead and check out the Maryland State Police website for a list of addresses. You can find one that's closest to you. But this is for the lovebirds here at 12:30. This afternoon, you can check out the Wedding Expo at Maryland's Live Casino and Hotel. You can meet face-to-face with top wedding professionals in the DMV, so get that planning. There's no excuse, okay? 3 o'clock this afternoon, though, get your game on. Baltimore Catholic League Championship basketball game. That's happening at Gosher College. Number 4 Spalding takes on number 2 St. Francis, okay? You can still buy tickets online if you haven't already. With all of these fun things happening around Baltimore today, will the weather hold up? We've got some good news for you. Meteorologist Amy Aronson's going to break it all down for you in her full Weather Authority forecast. While the vast majority of migrants come to the U.S. for a better life, some are breaking the law and then still allowed to stay. Now, not behind bars, though, free in our communities. National correspondent Christine Frizzell has a closer look at the concerns over sanctuary laws.
She was devoted to making this world a better place, and we have no doubt that she would have been an incredible nurse.
The horrific murder of 22-year-old Laken Riley, a nursing student out for a run last week on the University of Georgia campus, has thrust sanctuary policies back into the spotlight. The chief suspect, Jose Ibarra, was arrested for entering the country illegally in 2022 and then released on parole, only to be arrested again in 2023 for endangering a child. But that arrest occurred in New York City, deemed a sanctuary city.
What that means is that the local law enforcement will not cooperate with immigration authorities regarding someone they arrested for a local or state crime.
Instead, he was released, later moving to Athens, Georgia, where the murder occurred and which did not have sanctuary laws in place.
No policies have been adopted by the mayor and commission that have created sanctuary city status in Athens.
Still, things got heated at a public meeting this week. The Athens mayor, a target.
You're insulting our intelligence, sir. You need to resign.
Anger boiling over around the country as local budgets are strained and resources tapped out, including in New York.
A lot of money is being spent to house people, to make sure they're not in the streets and try to get them jobs. It's taken its toll on our state. We're at capacity.
The city of Denver, which has already scaled back services at the DMV and city parks, just announced it will close 4 migrant shelters
to save the city $60 million.
That still leaves us $120 million of cuts to make, so that still means we have work to do.
Both President Biden and his likely 2024 rival spent the day at the southern border with some very different messages. Former President Trump has for months highlighted the detrimental impact of the border crisis on the entire country. President Biden, meanwhile, says a fix was in place with the bipartisan border legislation that Trump effectively killed when he urged Republicans to vote against it. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Now, last week we told you about a fifth suspect arrested in the killing of a Prince George's County 2-year-old. Nilson Granada Trajos is facing multiple charges in that shooting that killed this child. According to ICE, he was ordered to be deported back in 2022, but was released 2 separate times. Montgomery County Executive Mark Elrich promised to have better cooperation with ICE in the future when it comes to addressing violent crime deportations.
And it's anything violent, anything related to sex offenses, child abuse, use of a gun or any other weapon. It's a pretty good list of things that we will deport for.
Elridge says Granados Trejos was released in the past because his arrests were for theft, not for violent crime. As for more stories like these, you can head to our website, foxbaltimore.com. All right, we are really turning a corner when it comes to moving into spring. Still winter, though. Right now, it's a bit chilly. Meteorologist Amy Aronson, how are we feeling outside right now?
Right now, little cool, but I promise in a couple hours, it's going to feel fantastic. So if you're looking for something to do outside today, maybe go for a hike. It's going to feel like spring. Perfect conditions for a round of golf. If you want to maybe hit up the playground, I'd say go for it. And share your pictures with us. Send them to us, foxbaltimore.com/chime-in, so we can see what you're doing. And we've got a lot of things to look forward to. We're springing forward in just about a week. Average highs in the low 50s at that point. St. Patrick's Day will follow. Average highs in the mid-50s by then in the spring equinox. I think I'm most excited for Orioles home opener in 25 days at the end of the month. Average highs close to 60 at that point, and then we'll wrap up the month with Easter. And at that point, our average highs close to 60 degrees. We are starting off with some pretty sunshine right now, looking down at Towson. That's going to help us out temperature-wise, help us warm up. Already the Inner Harbor breaking into the 50s at 54 degrees. Now, I would take what we have on the East Coast compared to what they have on the West Coast. They're getting feet and feet of snow still, so a winter weather maker moving through their neck of the woods. But for us, things look really, really quiet. High pressure sending us dry conditions from the north, and that's going to be the case at least for the next 48 hours. Next 2 days look great. Little preview of spring. We'll enjoy the 60s both today and again on Monday. The only difference Monday, it's turning mostly cloudy, so temperatures will be in the low to mid 60s at that point. After that, things kind of start to go downhill. So we are dry for the next 2 days, but starting on Tuesday, we get this batch of showers rolling in from the south here. Sends us some rain Tuesday morning, on and off showers throughout the afternoon. By Tuesday night, we're dry again, but then here comes our next weather maker showing up by Wednesday afternoon. This one sends us rain much of Wednesday evening through early Thursday. Then we'll dry things out briefly again. So late Thursday into Friday looks drier, but it looks like by the start of next weekend, yeah, we're tracking more rain. So we've got more wet weather pushing through next Saturday to start off the following weekend. Here's a look at all your rain chances in more detail. We're dry today and tomorrow. After that, rain shows up starting Tuesday through Wednesday. That's our highest chances for rain. After that, showers will taper Thursday into Friday. We get a brief break and then more rain for the start of the weekend with high temperatures holding in the low 50s. Taylor?
All right, well, speaking of snow, not here, Amy, but trending now, happening today, 38 mushers will hit the trail for the start of the Alaska 2024 Iditarod race. Mushers will spend the next 10 days trekking across thousands of miles, including 2 mountain ranges along ice-covered Bering Sea routes. This year, there's going to be a special focus on safety after 5 dogs tragically passed away in training leading up to the race. As a safety precaution, mushers are suggested to give their dogs light-up neon harnesses and collars as they head through the ice and snow. Wow. Well, IHOP and Girl Scouts are teaming up to bring back a new pancake flavor for the month of March. You can get a stack of thin mint flavored pancake cookies. Okay, the flapjacks include green buttermilk pancakes topped with that creamy cheesecake mousse, thin mint, and then some whipped cream. Okay, I'm getting really hungry now. The Girl Scout thin mint pancakes will only be around for this month, so get them while you can.
balancing Baltimore's.
Well, okay, a groom in Utah decided to add a bit of tech to his wedding day fit. Jacob, a tech engineer, wore the new Apple Vision Pro headset on his wedding day. Now, in his photo that he took, his wife can be seen taking it like a little bit aback by the decision, though. But the bride says she allowed her husband to just wear the headset during the reception, but stopped him from wearing it through the ceremony. Apple's Vision Pro is a virtual reality headset that can display digital content within a person's physical space. When you wear the headset, the user can navigate using their voice or their hand and, of course, their eyes. Stick with Fox 45 Morning News after the break. Meteorologist Amy Aronson has her exclusive 7-day.
.55 on this Sunday morning. Yesterday at this time, Taylor, it was raining, it was cool, it wasn't great out there. Hopefully everybody knocked off all their things on their to-do list yesterday while it was kind of yucky out, because today you're going to want to get outside and enjoy the fresh air. I know it's still a little cool out right now as we look down at downtown, but it's going to warm up. And we've got lots of fun things to look forward to over the next month. So within the month of March, we are springing forward in just 1 week. So 1 week from now, Taylor, we're actually losing that hour of sleep, but we gain the daylight in the evening. So that's the bonus to that.
Okay.
Highs in the low 50s at that point. St. Patrick's Day will follow in 14 days. Average highs in the mid 50s at that point. Spring equinox will follow. We kick off spring officially at that point in 16 days. Orioles home opener. Very excited for that at the end of the month on March 28th. Average highs close to 60, and then we wrap up the month of March with Easter. It's kind of early this year, 28 days until that happens, and average highs close to 60. Lots of fun things coming up.
Lots on the calendar. I would say the O's home opener really is the first official day of spring for me, but
yeah,
hey.
I know, why not? And hopefully we'll have temperatures like this. Today and tomorrow, we're actually above the average highs for this time of year. We're in the mid 60s. Because then rain's going to return. Tuesday kicks off a pretty unsettled pattern. Highest chances for rain come Tuesday and Wednesday. Brief little break there Thursday into Friday. But if you're already looking ahead to next weekend and planning out what you want to do, an early look shows more rain next Saturday. So I'd make your outdoor plans for next Sunday again. It kind of looks similar to what we saw this past weekend. But average highs, temperatures are above average highs every single day over the next 7. So that's a bonus.
And the great thing about it, Sunday and Monday, you've got 60s. So much to do today and tomorrow throughout the city. Great weather to do it.
Take advantage of it, for sure.
Well, we're back here at 10:30 a.m. Thanks for joining us here for Fox 45 Morning News. talk to you very soon, and we'll bring you the latest updates. Check us online, foxbaltimore.com.